What happens when a beloved comedian walks onto a talk show stage and completely destroys the host with nothing but pure, unfiltered truth? Well, you're about to find out, because what went down between Joy Behar and Leanne Morgan on The View was absolutely brutal. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because this is going to be wild. Joy Behar sat at the View table with that familiar smug expression, the one that said she owned the room and everyone in it. Her perfectly styled hair caught the studio lights as she shuffled through her notes, preparing for what she assumed would be another easy interview where she could flex her supposed comedic superiority. The producers had booked Leanne Morgan, the rising star of country comedy, and Joy figured this would be a simple segment where she could show off her quick wit against some small-town comedian. "All right, ladies, we're back," Joy announced to the cameras with her signature theatrical flair. "I'm here with Leanne Morgan, who apparently thinks telling jokes about small-town life makes her the next big thing in comedy. Leanne, honey, tell our viewers what makes your little stories so special." The condescension dripped from every word. Joy's co-hosts shifted uncomfortably in their seats, sensing the tension that was already building. Leanne, dressed in a simple but elegant outfit that screamed authentic rather than manufactured, smiled politely, but her eyes showed she had already taken Joy's measure. "Well, Joy," Leanne began, in her warm Tennessee accent, "I reckon what makes my comedy special is that it comes from a real place. I talk about real life, real struggles, real people. Not everyone needs to put on airs or talk down to folks to get a laugh." Joy's smile faltered for just a moment before she recovered. "Oh, please. We all know real comedy requires intelligence and sophistication. I mean, anyone can tell stories about their hometown and get a few chuckles from people who don't know any better. You know what's funny to me, Joy?" Leanne leaned forward slightly, her tone still friendly, but with an edge that made the audience lean in. "I've been watching your show for years, and I keep waiting for you to say something genuinely funny instead of just mean-spirited." The studio audience fell silent. You could hear a pin drop as Joy's face flushed red. She had built her career on being the sharp-tongued veteran who could cut down anyone. But somehow this country comedian had just flipped the script in the most polite way possible. "Excuse me?" Joy's voice rose an octave. "I've been doing comedy longer than you've been alive, sweetie. Don't come onto my show and lecture me about what's funny." "Oh, honey." Leanne's voice remained calm and sweet. "I'm not lecturing you. I'm just observing. See, where I come from, we were taught that being mean isn't the same as being funny, but maybe that's just small-town values talking." Joy's hands clenched on the table. "Small-town values? You mean small-minded thinking. Real comedy challenges people, makes them think. It's not all sunshine and rainbows like your little folksy routine." "You're absolutely right, Joy. Real comedy does challenge people." Leanne nodded thoughtfully. "When was the last time you told a joke that brought people together instead of tearing them down? When did you last make someone feel better about themselves instead of worse?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Joy opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. For the first time in decades, she was speechless. The woman who made her living with quick comebacks had been rendered mute by a simple, honest question from a comedian she had dismissed as beneath her notice. Whoopi Goldberg tried to jump in to save the segment. "Well, this is getting interesting. Let's talk about your tour, Leanne." But Joy wasn't done. Her ego couldn't let this slide. "Wait a minute. Are you seriously trying to school me on comedy? Do you have any idea who you're talking to? I've been on television longer than you've been telling jokes at church socials or wherever it is you perform." Leanne's smile never wavered. Church socials, comedy clubs, theaters, you name it. "The thing is, Joy, it doesn't matter where you perform or how long you've been doing it if you've forgotten why you started. Comedy is supposed to heal, not hurt." "Oh, spare me the after-school special philosophy," Joy snapped, her composure completely gone now. "Comedy is about truth. And the truth is, that not everyone is cut out for this business. Some people should stick to their little local circuits instead of trying to play with the big girls. The audience was getting restless now, sensing the genuine hostility radiating from Joy. But Leanne just sat there, calm as a summer evening, letting Joy dig her own grave with every word. "Big girls?" Leanne repeated softly, and something shifted in her demeanor. The politeness was still there, but now it carried the weight of steel. "Joy, honey, let me tell you something about big girls. Big girls don't need to tear other people down to feel important. Big girls lift each other up." Joy scoffed. "Please, this isn't kindergarten. This is show business. If you can't handle a little criticism, maybe you should go back to whatever small-town comedy night you crawled out of." "Criticism?" Leanne tilted her head like she was genuinely confused. "Is that what you call this? Because where I'm from, we call it being ugly. For no good reason. But since you brought up criticism, let me offer you some." The audience perked up. Even the camera operators seemed to lean in closer. Joy's co-hosts exchanged worried glances, sensing that something explosive was about to happen. "Your whole career has been built on punching down," Leanne continued, her voice still gentle but her words hitting like precision strikes. "You make fun of people who can't fight back. You mock folks who don't have the platform to defend themselves, and you call it comedy. But real comedy. Joy, real comedy punches up. It takes aim at power, not at people just trying to make their way in the world." Joy's face was turning crimson. "How dare you come onto my show and psychoanalyze me? You don't know anything about my career or what I've accomplished." "Oh, I know plenty." Leanne smiled sweetly. "I know you've spent years making jokes at the expense of regular people. I know you think being from New York makes you smarter than everyone else. I know you've built a brand around being the mean girl who never grew up. And honestly, Joy, it's just sad." "Sad?" Joy's voice cracked slightly. "I'm successful. I have a career. I have influence. What do you have? A few YouTube videos and some county fair gigs?" Leanne laughed, and it was the most genuine sound that had been heard on The View in years. "You know what I have, Joy? I have people who come to my shows and leave feeling better about themselves. I have fans who tell me my comedy helped them through difficult times. I have the respect of my peers because I treat people with dignity. Can you say the same?" The silence that followed was deafening. Joy opened and closed her mouth like a fish out of water, clearly struggling to find a comeback that wouldn't make her look even worse. Sunny Hostin attempted damage control. "Well, different comedians have different styles." "Different styles?" Leanne interrupted gently, never taking her eyes off Joy. "Is cruelty a style now? Because that's all I've seen from Joy today. She invited me on this show, not to have a conversation, but to try to embarrass me. And the sad part is, she's only embarrassed herself." Joy finally found her voice, though it was shaking with rage. "You think you're so much better than me, with your folksy wisdom and your holier-than-thou attitude. Well, let me tell you something, sweetheart. This business will chew you up and spit you out. Nice girls finish last." "Maybe." Leanne nodded thoughtfully. "But at least they finish with their souls intact. Tell me, Joy, when you go home at night, are you proud of the person you've become? When you look in the mirror, do you like what you see?" The question hit Joy like a physical blow. Her composure completely crumbled, and for a moment, the mask slipped entirely. The audience could see past the bravado to the insecure, bitter woman underneath. "I don't have to listen to this," Joy stammered, her hands shaking as she fumbled with her notes. "This is my show. My show." "Actually," Leanne said quietly, "I think it's the audience's show. They're the ones who decide what's worth watching. And right now, they're watching you throw a tantrum because someone finally had the courage to tell you the truth." Joy looked around the table at her co-hosts, clearly expecting support, but found only uncomfortable silence. Whoopi was studying her hands, Sunny was looking at the ceiling, and the others were avoiding eye contact entirely. The realization that she was completely alone in this moment seemed to hit Joy like a truck. "You don't understand." Joy's voice was barely above a whisper now. "This is how this business works. You have to be tough. You have to fight for your place." "No, honey." Leanne's voice was gentle now, almost pitying. "You don't have to become a monster to succeed. You chose to become one. And the saddest part is, you've convinced yourself it was necessary when really, it was just easier than doing the hard work of being genuinely funny." The studio was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning humming. Joy stared at Leanne, with a mixture of hatred and something that looked disturbingly like recognition, as if she was seeing herself clearly for the first time in years. Joy's breathing became shallow and rapid. The recognition in her eyes quickly morphed back into fury as her defense mechanisms kicked in. She couldn't handle the mirror that Leanne was holding up to her, so she did what she always did when cornered. She attacked. "You know what?" Joy stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor with an awful screech. "I've had enough of this sanctimonious garbage. You come on here acting like some kind of comedy saint, but you're nothing. You're a nobody from nowhere trying to lecture me about my career?" Leanne remained seated, her posture relaxed, her expression compassionate rather than triumphant. "Joy, please sit down. We're just having a conversation." "No." Joy's voice echoed through the studio. "This isn't a conversation. This is an ambush. You came here with an agenda to make me look bad, and I won't stand for it." The audience was shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Some were pulling out their phones to record what was clearly becoming a historic meltdown. The producers in the control room were frantically trying to decide whether to cut to commercial or let this train wreck continue. "I didn't come here with any agenda except to talk about comedy," Leanne said softly. "But if you're feeling attacked, maybe you should ask yourself why that is. Sometimes when we hear the truth, it feels like an attack because we've been lying to ourselves for so long." "Stop it!" Joy slammed her hand on the table, making the coffee mugs jump. "Stop with your folksy psychology and your fake wisdom. You think you're so smart, so insightful. Well, here's some insight for you. This business is cutthroat. It's survival of the fittest. And the fittest isn't some small-town nobody who thinks she can waltz in here and lecture her betters." Whoopi finally tried to intervene. "Joy, maybe we should take a breath here." Joy whirled on her. "Don't you start too, Whoopi. I'm the one with the edge, the one who asks the tough questions, the one who isn't afraid to say what everyone else is thinking. Is that what you think you do?" Leanne's voice cut through Joy's rant like a knife through butter. "Because what I see is someone who mistakes cruelty for courage. Someone who confuses being mean with being smart. You don't ask tough questions, Joy. You just ask cruel ones. That's it." Joy's face was purple now, spittle flying as she spoke. "I don't have to take this from some amateur who probably learned comedy from watching sitcom reruns. You want to know what real comedy is? Real comedy is telling the truth, even when it hurts. And the truth is, you'll never be more than a novelty act. A cute little distraction for people who don't appreciate real talent." The silence that followed was different this time. It wasn't just uncomfortable, it was damning. Even Joy seemed to realize she had gone too far, but she was too deep in her rage to back down now. Leanne stood up slowly, her movement graceful and deliberate. When she spoke, her voice carried a sadness that somehow made her words even more devastating. "You know what, Joy? You're right about one thing. Comedy is about telling the truth, even when it hurts. So here's a truth for you. You're not the victim here. You're not the wronged party. You're just a bitter woman who has spent so many years tearing other people down that you've forgotten how to build anything up, including yourself." Joy opened her mouth to respond, but Leanne held up a gentle hand. "I came here today, excited to meet you. I grew up watching you, thinking you were this strong, funny woman who had made it in a tough business. But what I see now is someone who has let that business turn her into something ugly. And the saddest part is, you don't even see it. How dare you, Joy whispered. But there was no fire left in her voice. I dare because someone needs to. Your co-hosts won't tell you. Your producers won't tell you. Your audience deserves better than what you've become. But they keep watching out of habit. Not because you bring them joy. When was the last time you brought anyone joy? Joy. Joy. The question hung in the air like a death sentence. Joy looked around the studio, at the cameras, at the audience, at her co-hosts. And for the first time, she seemed to really see what everyone else was seeing. A broken, bitter woman who had traded her humanity for the illusion of power. I've been doing this for 30 years, Joy said weakly, as if the number itself was some kind of shield. And what do you have to show for it? Leanne asked gently. Really? Because from where I'm sitting, all I see is someone who has spent 3 decades becoming someone nobody wants to be around unless they're being paid to. Joy's face crumpled. For a moment, she looked like she might cry, but then the anger flared again, one last desperate attempt to maintain control. You think you've won something here? Joy's voice was shrill now. Desperate. You think you've accomplished something by coming on my show and humiliating me? Well, congratulations. You've destroyed someone who was already down. That must make you feel really good about yourself. Actually, Leanne said quietly, it makes me feel sad. Because I can see the person you could have been. I can see glimpses of the comedian who probably started out wanting to make people laugh, not cry. But you buried her so deep under all this bitterness and cruelty that I don't think even you remember who she was. Joy stood there swaying slightly, as if Leanne's words had physically staggered her. The fight had gone out of her completely. She looked around the studio one more time, and when she spoke, her voice was barely audible. I can't do this anymore. Without another word, Joy walked off the set. Not the dramatic storm off of someone trying to make a point, but the defeated shuffle of someone who had finally seen themselves clearly and couldn't bear the sight. The sound of her high heels on the studio floor echoed in the silence until even that faded away. The cameras kept rolling. The audience sat in stunned silence. Leanne looked genuinely sad as she watched Joy disappear into the wings. Whoopi tried to salvage what was left of the show. Well, that was certainly something. Leanne, thank you for being here today. Thank you for having me, Leanne replied. But her heart clearly wasn't in the pleasantries anymore. I hope Joy finds what she's looking for. As the show cut to commercial, the audience slowly began to process what they had just witnessed. They had come expecting light entertainment, and instead had seen the complete psychological deconstruction of a television personality who had spent decades hiding behind a mask of cynicism and cruelty. In the end, it wasn't anger or shouting that brought Joy Behar down. It was something far more powerful and far more devastating. It was the simple, unvarnished truth delivered with compassion by someone who refused to play the game by Joy's rules. And that's how a small-town comedian from Tennessee managed to do what no politician, no celebrity, no fellow comedian had ever managed to do. She held up a mirror and forced Joy Behar to see exactly who she had become. The image was so unbearable that Joy simply couldn't face it anymore. What do you think it takes for someone to change when they've spent decades becoming someone they shouldn't be? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories like this one.